I'm your host, Brother Michael M. Hotep. It is Wednesday, October 28th, 2020, and we are live. Hope everybody's doing well today. It's been a very, very busy day. I was over on Livernois at 18409 Livernois, 14th Congressional District Democratic Headquarters, because Roland Martin was broadcasting Roland Martin Unfiltered from Detroit. So he was over there. So I went over for the broadcast. If you follow me on my Facebook page, you saw some of the pictures that I posted that we took. And then Roland interviewed Michigan Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist. He interviewed Wayne County Sheriff Benny Napoleon and Senator Gary Peters of Michigan. So check that out on, we shared it on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. Check that out on Roland's page, Roland Martin on Facebook and YouTube. All right, so it's been a very busy day. 6 days until the November 3rd, 2020 election. 73 million people have already voted. 73 million people have already voted. That is a record number of people who have early voted, and we're on pace actually to reach about between 90 to 100 million before November 3rd. In the 2016 election, there were 137 million people that voted. We could end up with 100 million early voting. We could actually end up with 100 million early voting. On yesterday's show, we talked about how African-American voters are fueling a lot of that, and they're voting for issues pertaining to health care, criminal justice reform, racial justice, economic issues, fighting against coronavirus, which has devastated America and devastated the African-American community. We see 8.9 million cases of coronavirus reported in the U.S., 8.9 million cases, 228,000 deaths. And we see that we have on average 70,000 new cases per day. On the average 70,000 new coronavirus cases per day for the past week. So a lot's going on, and we see how coronavirus is continues to impact the economy. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped about 900 points today because there's lack of a plan from the White House, from Donald Trump. He has no plan except hope for a vaccine, and then can try to convince people to take it. He has no plan. He has no national strategy to deal with coronavirus. So on today's show, we'll deal with a update in the Breonna Taylor case. So Gayle King on CBS this morning interviewed two of the grand jurors who heard the case against the officers and involving Breonna Taylor. And Breonna Taylor grand jurors say police actions were negligent and criminal, and they continue to call out Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, who's a mentee of Moscow Mitch McConnell. He's a mentee of Moscow Mitch McConnell. So elections have consequences. All right. And as we said, as I talked about, I think it was last week, one of the broadcasts last week, I said that back around September 9th, Donald Trump released a list of 20 potential nominees to the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court. He released a list of names of 20 potential nominees to the U.S. Supreme Court. Daniel Cameron was one of those names. Okay, so you could very well end up with, Donald Trump gets reelected to the second term. You could very well end up with Clarence Thomas Sr. and Clarence Thomas Jr. on the U.S. Supreme Court at the same time. Literally. So we'll talk about this update going on with Breonna Taylor. Breonna Taylor grand jurors say police actions were negligent and criminal. And it was a shocking interview from CBS this morning. Okay. Then there was an article, there was a study that came out, and New York Times wrote about this October 24th. I did not get a chance to talk about it, but far-right groups are behind most U.S. terrorist attacks, report finds. Far-right groups are behind most U.S. terrorist attacks, report finds. White supremacist groups have carried out a majority of terrorist plots and attacks this year, according to a report by a think tank. And this is also echoed by the Department of Homeland Security. Now, if you listen to Donald Trump, you think it's Antifa and Black Lives Matter. If you listen to Donald Trump, you think it's Antifa and Black Lives Matter. But no, as far as far-right groups that Donald Trump in general does not want to call out, especially consistently. He doesn't want to call these groups out consistently. So you have to sit back and ask the question, well, why doesn't he want to call these groups out? Isn't he about law and order? Does he want to bring them to justice? So I told you before, he's the president of lawlessness and disorder. Not law and order. He's the president of lawlessness and disorder. Okay, so we'll deal with this. We'll deal with this article here from the New York Times. Then we'll give an update on what's going on with coronavirus as well, and talk a little bit about what's going on the campaign trail. 6 days left. I'll be glad when this is over with. Seriously, this has been, if this has been crazy for you, how you think it is for me? I have to report on this stuff. And, it's just been a crazy, exhausting, like 4 years since the morning of November 9th, 2016. So we know that Amy Coney Barrett was rammed through to the U.S. Supreme Court. And then, as we talked about yesterday, Moscow Mitch McConnell sent the Supreme Court, sent the U.S. Senate on a recess until November 9th. No coronavirus bill, just leaving American citizens in the lurch, just leaving them out in the cold. Kind of like how the Trump campaign left those supporters out in the cold. Y'all see that story? I mean, talk about what the hell did you think was going to happen? All right. And there was elderly people out there in the cold. They could not coordinate buses to come pick up. They could not coordinate buses to come pick up Donald Trump supporters and they were dumb enough to go to the super spreader event in the first place. Okay. Now, personally, I'm sorry. This may sound cruel, right? I really don't have any sympathy for you. NBC News reports hundreds of Trump supporters stuck on freezing cold Omaha airfield after rally. 7 taken to hospitals. Now, we don't want anybody to end up in the hospital because you can go there and catch coronavirus. We don't want that to happen. We don't wish harm on anybody. But what the hell did you think was going to happen? Overall, 30 people were contacted for medical reasons, the Omaha Police Department said in a statement. I mean, if you can't coordinate buses to come pick up people who you told to come see you in the cold. We're going to post this article here. I posted it earlier and people were laughing at it. We posted it on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. People got a good morning laugh from this. Hundreds of Donald Trump supporters were left in the freezing cold for hours after a rally at an airfield in Omaha, Nebraska on Tuesday night, October 27th, with some walking around 3 miles to waiting buses and others being taken away in ambulances. Okay. So once again, we don't wish harm on anybody, but I mean, look who you're following. What do you think was going to happen? 7 people were taken to hospital suffering from a variety of conditions, and a total of 30 were contacted for medical reasons, the Omaha Police Department said in a statement. The Omaha Airport Authority had a slightly different figure for the numbers taken to the hospitals. It said 6 were, quote, throughout the duration of the event, end quote, and added that it could not confirm that the people were taken to the hospitals because of the cold. Now, the temperature in the area was in the mid 30s at the time, but as low as 27 degrees with the wind chill. Now, many of those at the rally at the Eppley Airfield faced hours in long lines to get in and clogged parking lots and busy crowds to get out hours after Air Force One departed around 9 p.m. So Trump was gone. Trump said, I'm out of here. He left them in the cold. He literally left them in the cold. The police said the last person was loaded onto a bus at the rally site at 11:50 p.m., about 3 hours after the event had ended. Okay, on Wednesday, Joe Biden said the incident was emblematic of Trump's whole approach. Joe Biden said, quote, just look what happened last night in Omaha after the Trump rally ended. Hundreds of people, including other Americans and children, were stranded in sub-zero freezing temperature. Now, it wasn't, I don't think it was sub-zero, but after a while out there, probably felt that cold. You know, Biden told reporters during a brief speech in Wilmington, Delaware, several folks ended up in the hospital. Hopefully they have health insurance. One if they have Obamacare. You know, I'm just curious. One if they have Obamacare. It's an image that captured President Trump's whole approach in this crisis, Joe Biden said. He makes a lot of big pronouncements, but they don't hold up. Okay, so so the police department said 25,000 people had been taken to the rally site by buses. 25, you hold a super spreader event in Omaha, Nebraska in the cold. And, you know, you just think that's going to go all right. Once again, you dumb enough to go up in there. And most of the people not wearing masks. Oh, sure, the people behind him, when the camera catches that angle, some of them are wearing masks. But they weren't practicing social distancing, even the people behind him. And then in the crowd, they weren't practicing social distancing. Most of them weren't wearing masks. I mean, you know, this is the chickens coming home to roost. According to police dispatches recorded by the radio communications platform Broadcastify, at least 30 people, including the elderly and an electric wheelchair user and the family with small children, were among those requiring medical attention after hours of waiting in the cold. Why'd you take your children in the cold to go see Donald Trump? I mean, we don't wish harm on anybody, but come on. I mean, is that entertainment? I mean, Walmart was closed. I mean, I don't understand this. Okay, whatever. All right. All right, look, hey, we got to go to break. Hey, you listen to the African History Network show right here on 9:10 a.m. Superstation Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right, stand by, everybody. Stand by. Stand by. Check out this article here. Check out this article here. This is crazy. Is that what do people go to the Trump rally on date night out in Omaha, Nebraska? Walmart was closed, Kmart was closed, so they go to the Trump rally. I'm like, they show pictures of them standing out in the cold, huddled up next to each other. Now, how many of them caught coronavirus? Because they weren't practicing social distance. These some dumbasses. I'm sorry. All right. This is what you want to do? Okay. Oh, man. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in also. I mean, this is probably the most politically correct thing to say, but you brought this on yourself. He can't even coordinate buses. How's he going to coordinate a fight against coronavirus? They can't even coordinate buses to transport their own supporters back to their cars, whatever. Just okay. All right. All right, let's see here. Stand by, everybody. Stand by. We'll be back in a minute here. Hey, if you want to advertise with the African History Network, email us at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Stand by, everybody. We'll be back in just a minute. All right, I got to connect to the radio station again. Connect. Stand by. We'll be back from break in 1 minute. This is live radio. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. If you have a question or comment. This is Michael Imhotep calling back. Okay, you got the clip I emailed you, right, for Breonna Taylor? Okay, thanks. All right. Yep. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. All right. Stand by, everybody. All right. So you may have seen we have posted on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel and my personal page. Yolanda Spivey and Nicole Compton are holding an estate planning workshop, estate planning and your wealth. Check it out at our fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. How's everybody doing? Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 a.m. Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. It is Wednesday, October 28th, 2020. Hope everybody's doing well. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. All right, so we'll talk about those topics, and then also dealing with some history. October 15th, 1883. October 15th, 1883, the U.S. Supreme Court strikes down the Civil Rights Act of 1875. The Civil Rights Act of 1875, legitimizing segregation. This took place October 15th, 1883. The U.S. Supreme Court struck down the Civil Rights Act of 1875 in an 8-1 decision. So we'll talk about that at the end of the show. Once again, as I explained to people, civil rights did not start with Rosa Parks on that Cleveland Avenue bus, December 1st, 1955. It didn't start with Emmett Till, August 28th, 1955. It didn't start with Brown versus Board of Education, U.S. Supreme Court case, 1954. Civil rights goes back to 1865 and 1866. Now, on the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's correct wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So when we control the radius of a man's thoughts, you can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. Now, we deal with a number of different topics here. On the African History Network show, we deal with current events in history, politics, education, economic empowerment, entrepreneurship, love, sex, health issues, and much, much more. Sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word KEMET, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. To sign up for our email newsletter, text the word KEMET, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. to sign up for our email newsletter. Also, shout out to my girl Gina, because I saw her today at the broadcast of Roland Martin Unfiltered. So she's watching also. So shout out to Gina, and also shout out to Yolanda Spivey as well. Okay, let's jump into these topics. So on MSNBC today, Katie Tur interviewed the attorney for representing the two of the grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor case. Okay, and Gayle King interviewed them on Tuesday, October 27th. CBSNews.com has this article. Breonna Taylor grand juror says Louisville police actions before her death were criminal. Breonna Taylor grand juror says Louisville police actions before her death were criminal. Two grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor case spoke to CBS This Morning co-host Gayle King in an exclusive interview set to air Wednesday. So the article came out on the 27th, October 27th. The interview aired Wednesday, October 28th. The two men who asked to remain anonymous for their safety say they were never given the option to consider murder or manslaughter charges, with one calling the police actions and behaviors the night Breonna Taylor was killed, quote unquote, criminal. Now, you know, last week we talked about this when the first juror came out, then the second juror came out, and they talked and they accused, they made accusations of Attorney General Daniel Cameron. Now, one of these jurors, juror number one, released a written statement last week criticizing Kentucky Attorney General Cameron over the grand jury proceedings. In a September 23rd news conference, Attorney General Daniel Cameron said his investigation found, quote, and the grand jury agreed, end quote, and the grand jury agreed, end quote, that the two officers who opened fire from Taylor's doorway on March 13th, 2020, killing her, were justified because they were returning a shot fired by her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker. Because of that, Cameron said 6 possible homicide charges under Kentucky law were not applicable to the case. Okay, let's go to this clip here. I want you to hear what the jurors had to say.
Exclusive interview. We are hearing from two of the grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor case. The 26-year-old woman was shot and killed in her own home during a Louisville police raid back in March. No police officers were charged for the shooting. Taylor and at least one of the officers involved has defended their actions. We spoke with the jurors and their attorney, who say they were never given the option to consider murder or manslaughter charges. That contradicts statements made by the Kentucky Attorney General. We are not releasing the identities of the grand jurors at their request for their safety. Can I ask you what you both think of the police behavior and actions that night?
Negligent.
Negligent?
They couldn't even provide a risk assessment, and it sounded like they hadn't done one. So their organization leading up to this was lacking. That's what I mean by they were negligent in the operation.
Number two?
They were criminal leading up to this, and everything that the way they moved forward on it, including the warrant, was deception.
Yeah, you can see more of our exclusive interview with these two jurors. That's tomorrow on CBS This Morning. They wanted to be called grand juror number one and juror number two, but they said it was difficult to come forward, but it also wasn't difficult because they were so outraged when they heard the decision. They said, they had never met Daniel Cameron, had no dealings with him whatsoever. And when they heard his statement saying that grand jury believes this or agrees with this, they said there was outrage in the grand jury room. They had a lot of very interesting things to say.
I'm very interested to hear what they have to say, especially as we've discussed at this table before about the warrant, how it came about, and what the police were told when they went to that.
A lot of questions about
you heard that comment about the risk assessment.
Yep.
Exactly.
Okay, hey, Shakita, I think it skipped past the first clip. Refresh the screen, because that first clip that loads up is about 6 minutes. Okay, so do me a favor, refresh the screen, and then let me know when you have that first clip queued up. All right, So in Gayle King's exclusive interview, the two grand jurors disputed Cameron's public comments regarding the case and said they were never given the option to consider murder or manslaughter charges. Though juror number 2, who called Louisville police's actions quote unquote criminal, said the entire operation that resulted in Taylor's death was full of deception. The entire juror number 2, who called Louisville police's actions quote unquote criminal, said the entire operation that resulted in Taylor's death was full of quote unquote deception. He said they were criminal leading up to this, and everything that the way they moved forward on it, including the warrant. Now, juror number 1 said they wanted to consider other charges, but were told, quote, there would be none because the prosecutors didn't feel that, okay. They said there would be none because the prosecutors didn't feel they could make them stick. Authorities were, end quote, authorities were executing a search warrant for a drug case connected to Taylor's ex-boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover. No drugs were found in Taylor's apartment. No drugs were found in Taylor's apartment. And Glover has said that Taylor had never been involved in any drug trading. All right. So check out the article from CBSnews.com. Breonna Taylor, grand juror, says Louisville police actions before her death were criminal. Let me try to cue this article up here. This is the police action criminal. There is. Okay, let me. There was another clip I wanted to try to find. All right, I had it, but I don't know where it went. We'll try to find this also for you. Then check out the article from NBCnews.com. Breonna Taylor, grand jurors say police actions were negligent and criminal. Breonna Taylor, grand jurors say police actions were negligent and criminal. This is from NBCnews.com. Let's see here. Okay. So check that out as well. And we'll probably have an update on you on this tomorrow. Let's see. Okay. Shakita, I'm gonna send this other article to you. It's a different one I have pulled up here. I'm gonna shoot this to you. This has the 6-minute clip in it. I was pulling these up on 2 different laptops, trying to coordinate all of this for the show. When we look at coronavirus, we see that contrary to what Donald Trump wants people to believe, coronavirus is getting worse. Okay. Contrary to what Donald Trump wants people to believe, the pandemic is getting worse. So U.S. averages more than 70,000 new coronavirus cases a day over a week, shattering records. New U.S. averages more than 70,000 new coronavirus cases a day over a week, shattering averages. Now, as days grow short and cold weather sets in across the northern United States, the country is logging more coronavirus infections than ever before. I thought we were turning a bend, and it's around the corner, and she's coming around the mountain when she comes, and you know they're declaring victory over coronavirus, and you know they're up here singing "Eye of the Tiger" from Rocky 3 and all this, but coronavirus is getting worse. It's not getting better. Tuesday, I sent you that clip, Shakita. Tuesday marked the first time that the rolling 7-day average, Tuesday, October 27th, marked the first time that the rolling 7-day average of new daily case counts a metric considered more reliable than single-day figures. This is the first time it's topped 70,000, a rolling average of 7-day daily cases. Record numbers of infections have been reported in 29 states over the past week. Record, does it sound like it's getting better to you? Does it sound, but also hospitalizations have increased by 46%. So when Donald Trump says, well, we have more cases because we test more. No, it's getting worse, dumbass. The infection rate is getting worse. It's not because you're testing more, it's getting worse. That's why hospitalizations are increasing. This is what happened when you have somebody who's incompetent in the White House. Elections have consequences. This is what I was explaining to people back in 2016. People say, oh, it don't matter who you vote for. Oh, really? I hope nobody, well, I don't want to say that. You know, I was going to say, I hope nobody you care about died from coronavirus, but we don't want to say that. But 220, 1/3 of African Americans know somebody who's died of coronavirus. 1/3 of African Americans know somebody who's died of coronavirus. I know people who died of coronavirus. One of them was one of my teachers, Ahati Kalindi E. I've interviewed him on my shows a number of times. So 41% of Black-owned businesses gone as of April this year. Now it's probably 50%. Elections have consequences. And then there are side effects. So a lot of people who recover from coronavirus still have lasting side effects. A report came out today about cognitive side effects, issues with memory loss, different things like this from survivors. So just because you survive from coronavirus doesn't mean that, you know, you're totally recovered this and you're scot-free and there's no side effects. You know, everything's back to normal. For some people, it is. For others, it's not. Record numbers of infections have been reported in 29 states over the past week in every region of the country. Now, more than 8.9 million cases have been reported nationwide since February 2020, and at least 220, now we're at 228,000 people have died of COVID-19, according to data tracked by the Washington Post. All right, now, let's see, let's look at these updates here. Okay, we'll go back to this clip here in just a second, Shakita. We've got the clip I was looking for. Let's pull that up. Just a second here. All right, now, the White House testing czar contradicted Donald Trump's claim that a surge of new infections is merely an artifact of increased testing, because this is one of the lies Donald Trump likes to tell. Oh, we have more cases because we have more tests. No, the infection rate is increasing. It's spreading faster. Quote, cases are actually going up. And we know that too, because hospitalizations are going up, end quote. Admiral Brett Jurors told NBC's Today Show Wednesday. You think? Yes, hospitalizations have increased by 46%. Boeing announced plans Wednesday to cut an additional 7,000 jobs by the end of the year as it grapples with vanishing air travel demand and ongoing fallout from the 737 MAX jet crisis. After testing positive for coronavirus, Los Angeles Dodgers player Justin Turner was seen mingling with teammates and pulling down his mask for photos to celebrate the team's victory in Game 6 of the World Series. I don't think that's going to turn out too well. Okay, so check out these updates from the Washington Post. Okay, and they make their updates dealing with coronavirus free. All right, so we have the clip here from CBS News, CBS this morning, dealing with Breonna Taylor. Let's go to this clip. We had a clip. Here we go.
Welcome back to CBS This Morning. We begin this half hour with our exclusive interview with two of the grand jurors in the Breonna Taylor case and their attorney, Kevin Gogower. Taylor was shot and killed in her home during a police raid back in March. One of the officers at the scene, Brett Hankinson, was fired and charged with wanton endangerment for shooting at the apartment next door. No one was hurt there. But no officers have been charged for Taylor's death, and at least one of the officers involved has defended their actions. The jurors told us authorities never presented them with the option to consider indicting officers on more serious charges for Taylor's death, which left them feeling frustrated, disgusted, and even betrayed. Now, we're not revealing their identities at their request for their safety.
They didn't give us the charges up front when they gave us all of that testimony over 20-something hours, and then to say that these are the only charges that they're coming up with. It's like, well, what did we just sit through? And then to be told that we're not charging them with anything else, to me, it was a betrayal.
So when you all look, Juror 1 and 2, and you're told that the only thing you need to consider right now is wanton endangerment, did anyone say, hey, are there any other options here? Did either of you say that?
Almost the entire room.
What was the answer that you were given?
Basically, in a nutshell, they said there were other possible charges that we considered, but nothing that we could make stick.
They never gave us the opportunity to deliberate on anything but the charges for Hinkleson. That was it. As a matter of fact, when they announced that those were the only charges, it was an uproar in that room. There was several more charges that could have gone forward on all of those officers, or at least the 3 shooters.
Why is this so extraordinary, Kevin?
Normally, the grand jurors are presented with the law and the charges so that they can listen to the facts with an open mind and apply those facts to the law, almost as a roadmap.
What happened here?
What happened here was it was done in the complete reverse.
What stands out to you the most?
From a legal perspective, it looked like they weren't following the grand jurors, and they only wanted the grand jurors to follow them, which is contrary to the actual rule.
Grand juror number 1 and number 2 say what prompted them to ultimately speak out was that press conference held by Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, which they insist falsely represented their position on potential indictments for the officers involved in Breonna Taylor's death.
While there are 6 possible homicide charges under Kentucky law, these charges are not applicable to the facts before us because our investigation showed, and the grand jury agreed, that Mattingly and Cosgrove were justified in the return of deadly fire.
When he stated that there were 6 possible murder charges and that the grand jury had agreed that those didn't apply, the first time I heard the word 6 possible murder charges was in that news conference.
It wasn't presented to you in the grand jury deliberations?
No. And personally, when I do something, I take responsibility for it. We had not done that.
I really felt that. This was all Cameron. This was up to him. We didn't get a choice in that at all. So I was livid. By the time I heard what he was saying, everything that came out of his mouth, I was saying liar because we didn't agree to anything. We never met Cameron.
You've never met Attorney General Cameron?
No, we never met him. He never discussed anything with us.
I think many people will be very surprised to hear that they had no contact with Attorney General Cameron whatsoever.
I agree. If you watch the press conference, it seemed clear from the wording that Mr. Cameron was implying that he played a larger role in the actual presentation.
Is that normally how it works?
Well, the Attorney General in Kentucky doesn't normally present cases to the grand jury. But I think to answer your question, Gail, generally the highest person in the office would at least come introduce themselves to the grand jurors.
Do either of you think there was enough evidence to present charges of murder, attempted murder, manslaughter?
Yes, I think there was. I mean, just all of the evidence there. As we were listening to it, we were sure this was leading up to something like that.
Among the evidence the grand jury heard was a 911 call from Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker. He says he fired a warning shot at who he thought were intruders. Officers returned fire with 32 bullets.
911 operator Harris, where is the emergency?
I don't know what happened. Somebody kicked in the door and shot my girlfriend.
The thing that stood out to me when I was talking to him, he said, why would I call 911 if I thought it was the police?
Mm-hmm. That resonated with me because he didn't know who it was that was coming in. You know, he had no idea. You could hear the distress. Everything about what he said was believable. It made sense all the way through.
You found him credible?
Yes.
Totally believable.
Did you find the police credible?
No.
No, there are too many inconsistencies in their story. Now, I understand that, in a situation like that, you may not remember, but I didn't find their testimony credible.
What was your understanding about what happened that night?
It was a mess. It didn't seem to me that there was any organization or almost any leadership in the whole operation.
From the evidence that I heard, this thing started out downhill to begin with. You don't need 7 cops to go up to somebody's door and knock on it and say, we're here to do an investigation at 1 o'clock in the morning. It kept going downhill from there. It was one mistake right after the other, right after the other. They covered it up. That's what the evidence that I saw. And I felt like there should have been lots more charges on that. They covered it up.
Now, later this morning, former Louisville officer Brett Hankinson is scheduled to be in court for a pretrial hearing on the wanton endangerment charges that he's facing. We did, by the way, reach out to Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron. He did not give us a new statement, but last month he did tell a local Fox affiliate if the jurors had wanted to make an assessment about different charges, they could have done that. The jurors, as you see, disagree with that.
They didn't get that aware of it.
Yeah. I mean, juror number 1 is white, juror number 2 is black, and it was juror number 1 who was so upset that reached out to attorney Kevin Glogauer because he said, I don't know what to do with this. This is so frustrating.
Well, you can understand why they were livid at the attorney general's comment.
Yeah, they're being told that they went along with something that they clearly did not.
And that's what upset them. And it took them, they said, under 2 minutes to deliberate on the charges because all they had to consider were the wanton endangerment. We'll talk more with them at 8 o'clock about the toll that it's taken.
But you can obviously, this is just 2 members of the jury, we should say, but they had a very different conclusion than.
But Anthony, I did ask, do you think other jurors feel this way? They said, look, we can't speak for other jurors, but there was an uproar in the room that everybody was unanimous in their anger about the decision.
But, well, we don't presume to speak for those other jurors either, but it's very clear these jurors were not represented in what the attorney general said.
Very interesting. Incredible interview.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Shakita. Okay. So it's clear now when Daniel Cameron did his little song and dance and had his press conference, everybody across the country, they were like, what? Wanton endangerment? You mean that you only going to prosecute for shooting into the wall of a neighboring apartment? And we were trying to figure out, okay, so how did the grand jury come to this conclusion? But come to find out, the grand jury did not come to that conclusion. These 2 grand jurors are saying we were never given the option to consider other charges. We were never given the option to consider homicide charges. It was the way the case was presented. Read this article here from CBSnews.com. Breonna Taylor grand juror claims there was enough evidence for homicide charges. Police, quote unquote, covered their mistakes. Breonna Taylor grand juror claims there was enough evidence for homicide charges. Police, quote unquote, covered their mistakes. And also in that interview, you heard their attorney Glogauer as well. And when I reported on this last week, we got statements from the attorney Glogauer also, Kevin Glogauer. Look at the article from thehill.com, October 22nd, 2020. Second grand juror in Breonna Taylor case says jury only allowed to consider wanton endangerment charges. This is from October 22nd, 2020. Second grand juror in Breonna Taylor case says jury only allowed to consider wanton endangerment charges. And then if we look at from October 20th, 2020, NBCnews.com, juror in Breonna Taylor case said grand jury didn't agree fatal shooting was justified. Juror in Breonna Taylor case said grand jury did not agree fatal shooting was justified. That was the first juror. Oh, what a tangle web we weave when first we practice to deceive. I think now we know that Benjamin Crump, and I just sent you the clip from CNN, Shakita. So let me know when we had that queued up. We know Benjamin Crump, family attorney Benjamin Crump, is calling for an independent investigation. But Cameron may have to resign over this. This is blowing up in his face. Okay, so then we have to ask the question, well, why? It appears you threw the case. It appears. Okay, now it's going to be interesting to see if Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron releases a statement to defend his actions. Okay, because he didn't release a new statement at the time that interview aired. So it's going to be interesting to see. But so we have to ask the question. So why did you take this course of action? Did somebody encourage you to take this course of action? What's behind all of this? Okay. So I want to go to this clip here from CNN. We know Tuesday, October 27th, President Barack Obama was on the campaign trail in Florida once again, whooping Donald Trump's behind. Obama slams Trump over coronavirus. He's jealous of COVID's media coverage. Obama slams Trump over coronavirus. He's jealous of COVID's media coverage. Former President Barack Obama on Tuesday, October 27th, harshly criticized Donald Trump's response to the coronavirus pandemic and faulted him for turning the White House into a hot zone. Let's go to this clip.
1 week until Election Day, the Biden campaign unleashing its most powerful weapon, Barack Obama, against Trump on the one issue Trump wants to avoid. In Trump's own words, that issue is COVID, COVID, COVID. Cases surging, hospitalizations and deaths up, and President Trump is blaming the media for COVID. Moments ago at a rally in a state with record hospitalizations and deaths tonight, he chanted his new mantra.
No, it's COVID. You turn on the news. COVID, COVID. You know when they're going to stop talking about it so much? November 4th. You're right. November 4th. Oh, it's a whole crazy thing. All they want to talk about is COVID. But the good news, on the 4th, they'll stop talking.
Trump's words in Wisconsin, repeating his tweets of earlier today. Here's one of them. You can see him. One, all the fake news media wants to talk about is COVID, COVID, COVID. On November 4th, you won't be hearing so much about it anymore. We are rounding the turn. 11 states tonight with record high hospitalizations, a peak in the average of new cases of 20% in a week. This is not fake. People are sick and more people are dying, and that is why we are talking about it. Team Biden is making its closing case that this is all because of Trump's leadership. Here's President Obama in Florida today.
What's his closing argument? That people are too focused on COVID. He said this at one of his rallies. COVID, 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 he's complaining. He's jealous of COVID's media coverage. If he had been focused on COVID from the beginning, cases wouldn't be reaching new record highs across the country this week.
And here's Biden.
He said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because he is who he is. In the spring, the president declared, in his voice as commander-in-chief, says commander-in-chief is going to wage war on the virus. Instead, he shrugged, he swaggered, and he surrendered.
Now, the president tweeted that this is about November 4th, Election Day, but this isn't about a date on the political calendar. Although if President Trump does want to talk about dates, there are some he should worry about, like November 14th, when the CDC, as of tonight, projects up to 247,000 Americans will be dead from this virus, which is another 20,000 Americans dead in the next 2.5 weeks. This won't be over on November 4th because death and dying aren't fake news. And one person who knows this isn't fake tonight, the Wisconsin Governor, Tony Evers, who had a dire warning for people in his state this evening.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. We are facing an urgent crisis, and there is an imminent risk to you, your family members, your friends, your neighbors, and the people you care about.
President Trump is in Tony Evers' state right now. There he is. See people behind him, state where the virus is running rampant. Yet at the rally in West Salem where the president is as I speak, it's the usual, no social distancing, very few, if any, masks.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Shakita. Okay, so check that out from CNN.com. Once again, that article, Obama slams Trump over coronavirus. Quote, he's jealous of COVID's media coverage. He's jealous of COVID's media coverage, end quote. That's from October 27, 2020, CNN.com. All right. We're going to continue on our social media platforms. Follow us at The African History Network, The African History Network on Facebook, and Michael Imhotep on YouTube, IMHOTEP on YouTube. And somebody sent me a question dealing with, can Democrats really win because of the Electoral College? The answer is yes. So follow me on my social media platforms and we'll answer this question about the Electoral College. I did a post today on my Facebook fan page. One of my friends, fellow historian Jamon Jordan, posted some information explaining the Electoral College. And I've posted information about that before that I wrote explaining how it works. And I posted information again today dealing with that. Yes, Democrats can win in the Electoral College. It takes 270 Electoral College votes to become president-elect because the Electoral College does not vote until the first Monday following the second Wednesday in December. Okay, that's when they certify and actually vote, but you become president-elect by getting at least 270 Electoral College votes. Joe Biden has more paths to get to 270 than Donald Trump. Okay. Thanks for listening. On the African. Also, if you'd like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network. $, TheAHN Show through Cash App, because we need your help. $, TheAHN Show through Cash App, and also through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHN Show, paypal.me/TheAHN Show. So being that we're here 6 nights a week, that definitely helps out. We're here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight. Right now, and Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right now, let's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Stay tuned for Michael Baisden. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. Okay. All right. Let's continue. I'll answer that question about the Electoral College. Marnice sent me this question, sent me this text about the Electoral College. So we'll answer that question, and we'll look at, let me see, it was something else I wanted to look at here. Coming up Saturday, October 31st, Yolanda Spivey, expert insurance broker, and attorney Nicole Compton are having a live webinar dealing with estate planning, state, and your wealth. Is taking place. What the hell just happened? Estate planning and your wealth is taking place Saturday, October 31st, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Visit estateplanning.school for more information. Sign up on. You can register online at Eventbrite. Estateplanning.school. More information, and we're going to try to pull this up right here. And I'm going to try to set up an interview with them in the next couple of days also. So look out for that. It's your money. They will show you how to keep it in the family. It's your money. They will show you how to keep it in the family. Insurance and estate plan, simple, and presented by Yolanda Spivey and attorney Nicole Compton. Saturday, October 31st. 2020, 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So look out for that. All right. Let's continue here. How's everybody doing? Marcel, watching on social media. Marcel, Peggy, Gaston. Reminds me of A.G. Gaston, the insurance titan. A.G. Gaston A.G. Gaston was an African-American millionaire. And he used to put up bail money for the civil rights workers, like Dr. King and the civil rights workers. He used to put up bail money for them. Okay. Who else we have? Lisa Grayson. Everybody shared his broadcasting and social media platforms. All right. So when we look at the Electoral College, yes, Democrats can win the Electoral College. Now, problem is Republicans understand the law better oftentimes than Republicans strategize voter suppression tactics and understand the Electoral College better many times than Democrats do. Now, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I study history, study law, and I have pretty good understanding of how this works. So I did a post once again today because a lot of people don't understand the Electoral College. And unfortunately, I saw part of a video that comedian Mike Epps did with hip hop artist KRS-One. And I saw a little bit of it, and I like KRS-One, but he needs to do more research. I'm sorry. He was talking about the Electoral College. He was talking about voting in general, 1. 2, he's talking about the Electoral College and said Electoral College is BS and things like that. No, it's not. Electoral College was created by Article 2, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution. We need to study this. All right, so here's what I posted today on my fan page and my personal page. The Electoral College does not vote until the first Monday following the second Wednesday in December. In 2016, it fell on December 19th. A candidate becomes president-elect by winning 270 or more Electoral College votes on the day of the presidential election. So you need at least 270 Electoral College votes to become president-elect. You reach 270 by winning the Electoral College votes associated with a state. California has the most Electoral College votes. It's the most populous state. It has 66. Texas has 38. Michigan has 16. Maine and Vermont have 3. Illinois has 14. Okay. You win the Electoral College votes associated with the state by winning the popular vote in the state. So in 2016, because of voter suppression tactics and Jill Stein helping out, because Jill Stein got about 50,000 votes out of Michigan. There were 90,000 people in Michigan who actually voted, but did not vote for president. They left the top of the ticket vacant, which is dumb as hell. I don't understand that. You had dumbasses on MSNBC like Dr. Eddie Glaude, Professor Eddie Glaude, who has a PhD. And he told people on MSNBC, this fool told people vote for everything except president. How'd that work out? 90,000 people in Michigan voted, but left the top of the ticket empty, vacant, didn't vote for president. Dumb as hell. Doesn't make any sense. Okay. So Donald Trump won Michigan by 10,704 votes. Jill Stein got 50,000 votes. You had at least Governor Bill Weld, who was the vice presidential candidate for the independent ticket. He dropped out 3 weeks before the election and said we need to stop Donald Trump. Jill Stein didn't. Okay, no offense to anybody that voted for Jill Stein, but she didn't. Okay, now I don't know why people will vote for Jill Stein, because she didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning. And if you understand math, which unfortunately a lot of people don't when it comes to the presidential election, they don't understand math. Okay, I said if you vote third party, that's a vote for Trump, because I reported day after day on the voter suppression that was taking place. I was looking at what was happening. I knew what was going to happen. I said, you vote third party, that's a vote for Trump. That's taking popular votes away from Hillary Clinton. She will not be able to get to 270 Electoral College votes. The interstate cross-checking system knocked about 54,000 people off the voter rolls in Michigan. Interstate cross-checking system, another voter suppression tactic, knocked about 1.1 million people off the voter rolls in about 23 states across the country. I'm looking at this stuff. I'm like, third party, what the hell for? You want to help Trump win? We don't understand how all this works. So you win electoral college votes associated with a state by winning the popular vote in the state. Anyone who says the popular vote doesn't matter has never studied how the electoral college works, or they're lying to you. One or the other. Either they never study how it works, don't understand how it works, or they're lying to you. It is the popular vote per state that matters, not the national popular vote totals, because you actually have 50 individual elections. They're state elections. There is no national election. In all actuality, you ask individual state elections. We don't understand civics. So Republicans understand this better than Democrats and many African Americans. Because to be quite honest with you, in 2016, the only people I saw saying we don't vote for the president, electoral college votes for the president, basically African Americans saying that. I couldn't find any Donald Trump supporters who said that. They said we vote for Donald Trump. I couldn't find one Donald Trump supporter. I saw dozens of interviews with Donald Trump supporters at rallies. I saw focus groups. I couldn't find one Donald Trump supporter who said we don't choose president, electoral college chooses president. They said we vote for Donald Trump. Some of them didn't know where the polling place was. Some of them didn't know what date the election was. Some of them hadn't voted in years. Some of them were first-time voters. Okay. They said we voting for Donald Trump. They didn't say nothing about the electoral college. Many Donald Trump supporters said this is about the courts. This is about the U.S. Supreme Court. This is about the federal courts. Okay. And then many Republicans said that also. They may not have been Donald Trump supporters. Trump may have been their last resort because they saw him to a means to an end, because they said this is about the court. 218 federal court judges confirmed, 3 Supreme Court judges confirmed. Now, they may have lost loved ones who've died from coronavirus in the process. For many of them, mission accomplished. Okay. Some of them may have died from coronavirus and voted for Trump because of the court. Okay. But he did fulfill that. They saw him as a means to an end because they want to overturn Roe versus Wade. They want to overturn the Affordable Health Care Act. They said this is about the courts. And see, white people have a negative birth rate in 26 states out of 50. That's not me. That's the U.S. Census Bureau, June 2018 memo from the U.S. Census Bureau. All the news outlets reported on it. New York Times, NBC News. I talked about it on my shows. 2 years before that, it was 17 states out of 50. Okay. So they're playing the long game. They said, okay, so we're not going to be the majority population in this country. The year 2043 is when demographers estimate that white people will no longer be the majority population in this country. Okay. And New York Times had an article dealing with was it population loss? What was the name of that? I'm going to show you this article here. All the news outlets. I talked about this on my show. Fewer births than deaths. This is it right here. This is what this is all about. Okay. So while simple Simon ass Negroes are sitting up here telling you don't vote so they can keep selling you bullshit. All right. And build up their social media platform. You got people playing the long game. All right. They're focusing on the federal courts and the U.S. Supreme Court, and they have us focusing on the basketball court. Even though LeBron James is doing some good things with the voting initiative, things like that. Yeah, but they're focused on the federal courts. We're focused on the basketball courts. All right, let's pull up this article here. Why the hell isn't this thing coming up? Trying to bring this up here in Google. Okay. I deal with this when I deal understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans. This is one that this is a article I show people. Let me see something here. All right, let's continue here. What is this doing? Okay, this is coming up here. All right, can y'all still hear me? All right, let me see if I can show you this article. Let's try to turn on this. What the hell is all this? Let's try to turn on the screen share. All right, just give me a second. I want to turn on the screen share so I can show you this. Okay, but look at this article here from New York. Here we go. Fewer births. This thing is damn. Slowly. All right, it'll switch over. But in 2018, this article came out in 2018, June 2018. There was a memo from the New York Times that talked about this. All right. In this article, it deals with how 2 years before this, it was 17 states out of 50. Okay. It was 17 states out of 50 that had a negative birth rate. Then in 2018, it was 26 states out of 50. White people had a negative birth rate. All right, fewer births than deaths. What is this, man? I need to get a new laptop. This laptop is getting on my last nerve. All right. Okay, we'll try to get that up. See if this comes up. Okay. Fewer births than deaths. Whites in majority states. All right, read this article here from New York Times. But anyway, back to the Electoral College. It is the popular vote per state that matters, not the national popular vote totals. Republicans had new voter ID laws in 14 states in 2000 and in 2016. I'm sorry. Republicans had new voter ID laws in 14 states in 2016 and engaged in rampant voter suppression. Key battleground states include Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, including Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. All right, let's see. Looks like this is coming up now. All right. Fewer births than deaths among whites in majority U.S. States. Fewer births than deaths among whites in majority U.S. states. So this is from New York Times, June 20th, 2018. So all the news outlets picked up the reporting from the U.S. Census Bureau. Deaths now outnumber births among white people in more than half the states in the country, demographers have found. Deaths have outnumbered births among white people in more than half of the states in the country, demographers have found, signaling what could be a faster than expected transition to a future in which whites are no longer a majority of the American population. The Census Bureau has projected that whites could drop below 50% of the population around 2045. Now they're saying 2043. A relatively slow moving change. Can y'all, is the font size large enough for you all to see this? Let me know. A relatively slow moving change that has been years in the making. But a new report this week, this was 2 years ago, June 2018, but a new report this week found that whites are dying faster than they are being born now in 26 states up from 17 states just 2 years earlier, and demographers say that shift might come even sooner. Demographers say that shift might come even sooner. Okay, so and when you read this, one of the things they talk about is how the increase from 17 to 26 states is fueled by the opioid crisis and the opioid addiction. All right. So what you have is many white people, especially Republicans, realizing that they're not going to win they're going to lose the majority population. So they want to have control of the federal courts and control federal law for the next 25, 30, 35, 40 years. That's what this is about. So they have to have the White House to be able to nominate ultra conservative judges like Amy Coney Barrett. And they have to have the Senate to be able to confirm these ultra conservative judges like they just did with Amy Coney Barrett. And then Moscow Mitch McConnell allows the Senate to go on a recess until November 9th after the election without passing the coronavirus bill, coming to an agreement with Democrats in the House of Representatives to pass a coronavirus bill, even though Democrats in the House passed a $3.4 trillion HEROES Act in May 2020. This is October, and Republicans have not come to an agreement with them, but they rushed with a quickness to get Amy Coney Barrett confirmed. Okay, this is the game you want to play. All right. So when the shoe's on the other foot, we need to kick the shit out of them, period. When the shoe's on the other foot, Democrats take control of the Senate. They need to expand the U.S. Supreme Court from 9, because it started out with 5. Originally, it was 5 Supreme Court justices. Then it went to 6. At one point, it was 10. Now it's down to 9. There is no set number. Okay. So Democrats need to pack the Supreme Court, just like Republicans have been packing the federal court. Okay. You want to play the game, recognize this game. That's the game you want to play. Okay. They need to expand it to like 13 Supreme Court justices. They need to expand it to 13 Supreme Court justices. And they say we're being patriotic because there were 13 original colonies. Let's do it like that. That's the game you want to run. Okay. All right. That's what we'll do. Read this article here. Fewer births than deaths among whites in majority of U.S. states. Okay. Hashtag vote them out. Absolutely. This is the elections have consequences. Election. Now, the people telling you don't vote, they're not explaining any of this to you because they don't understand it. All right. Let's continue here. So we dealt with the Electoral College. I'm going to do another. I did a video, a whole presentation in 2016 after the 2016 election explaining the Electoral College. We'll probably, I need to do that again, probably Saturday, something like that, or maybe for our Sunday night show. I don't know. We need to do that before the election because our people are confused. Okay. Our people are confused and they're consuming this nonsense that people are putting out. And one thing I do is I provide you with the sources, the evidence. First thing you can do is go read Article 2, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution, because the Electoral College was created at the Philadelphia Convention in 1787 when they're drafting and debating the U.S. Constitution. Okay. And then the 12th Amendment of 1803, if I remember correctly, the 12th Amendment of 1803, that was in the that amendment dealt with a change in the Electoral College as well. Okay. So we don't understand any of this, but the foundation is understanding the U.S. Constitution. That's why I talk about the Constitution so much. That's the foundation. If you don't understand that, you're not going to understand all this other stuff. All right. So let's continue because I didn't mean to go that long on this. We got to get to these other two topics here. All right. We'll talk some more about the Electoral College in over the next few days. We'll give an update on Breonna Taylor case. New York Times, far-right groups are behind most U.S. terrorist attacks, report finds. You think far-right groups are behind most U.S. terrorist attacks, report finds. White supremacist groups have carried out a majority of terrorist plots and attacks this year, according to a rank the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Okay, has anyone Trump this? I'm just curious. Is anybody let Donald Trump know about this? This is from October 24th, 2020. I didn't get a chance to talk about it when it came out. This article is from Jenny Cross for the New York Times. White supremacists and other like-minded groups, have committed a majority of the terrorist attacks in the United States this year, according to a report by a security think tank that echoed warnings made by the Department of Homeland Security. So the Department of Homeland Security is talking about what's going on. Now, little Candace Owens don't want to admit it. She acts like white supremacy doesn't exist and is not a threat and things like that. No, she's lying. The report published Thursday by the Center for Strategic and International Studies found that white supremacist groups were responsible for 41 of 61 terrorist plots and attacks. White supremacist groups were responsible for 41 of 61 terrorist plots and attacks. Okay. Now, a lot of them are Donald Trump supporters. That's why Donald Trump doesn't want to denounce them unless he's really pressed. And then when he's really pressed, he'll say something like stand back and stand by. Okay. Until he, and then it took him 2 days when the first presidential debate happened, and he told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. It took 2 days. It was Thursday evening on TheAHnShow show that he finally came out and said he denounced white supremacists. Okay, but he continued to retweet stuff from white supremacists. Okay, so the findings come about 2 weeks after an annual assessment by the Department of Homeland Security warned that violent white supremacy was the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland. Violent white supremacy was the most persistent and lethal threat in the homeland, and that white supremacists were the most deadly among domestic terrorists in recent years. White supremacists were the most deadly among domestic terrorists in recent years. Now, you wouldn't know this talking to Donald Trump. You'd think it's Antifa. Antifa is not even an organization. Antifa is an ideology. Okay. Then when he was confronted with what FBI Director Christopher Wray said, who Trump nominated, because Christopher Wray tells the truth on all this stuff, Donald Trump said, "Oh, he's wrong." Really? Okay. See, this is an example why this is like reason number 456 why Donald Trump needs to be voted out of office. The think tank researchers found that the threats of violence were linked in part to this year's mass protests and confrontations with protesters from a variety of factions. The report said that, quote, far left and far right violence was deeply intertwined, in that far left groups, including anarchists and anti-fascist organizations, were responsible for 12 attacks and plots so far this year. Okay, anarchists and anti-fascist organizations, the ones that Donald Trump loves to talk about, they say, oh, if Joe Biden becomes president, they're going to be burning down cities, they're going to be looting and all this stuff. That's taking place under your administration. That's taking place right now. But the white supremacists are a bigger threat. Far left and the report said that far left and far right violence was deeply intertwined, and that far left groups, including anarchists and anti-fascist organizations, were responsible for 12 attacks and plots so far this year, or 20% of the total number, up from 8% in 2019. But the majority are these white supremacist organizations. So let's see here. Let's try to pull this up here in Firefox. do it this way because I'm logged into my New York Times account through Firefox. I'm not logged in through Google Chrome. Let's see if we can bring this up here. Okay. Just give me a second here. All right, everybody share this broadcast to your social media platforms and invite your friends to tune in. You're not going to get a lot of this type of information other places. So we're here Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern Standard Time. We usually go over. We'll be here for a few minutes longer because it's been a busy day. All right, let's look at this here from New York Times. Let's try to turn on the screen share here. See if you can see this. Try it this way. Okay, the report by Center for Strategic and Internet report by CSIS, which describes itself partisan center, found that left extremists most frequently targeted law enforcement, military, and government facilities and personnel. Left extremists, is it coming up? Oh no, it's Google Chrome. We need to do Firefox. Okay, left extremists most frequently targeted law enforcement, military, and government facilities and personnel. Okay, so let's look at this here. Indicate and turn that on and blow that up. Expand it. Okay, so you should be able to see this here. Okay, far-right groups are behind most U.S. terrorist attacks, report finds. White supremacist groups have carried out a majority of terrorist plots and attacks this year, according to a report by a think tank, the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Let's see how this looks here. Okay, so you should be able to see that. Let's scroll down. Okay. Okay, the report by CSIS, which describes itself as a nonpartisan center, found that far left extremists most frequently targeted law enforcement, military, and government facilities and personnel. The report highlighted several cases, including fatal shootings related to protests, and the FBI's arrest of 13 men accused of plotting to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. Okay, Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan, who's a Democrat, our governor here in Michigan. Those cases, along with Donald Trump's denunciations of left-wing activists and his refusal at a presidential debate to condemn an extremist right-wing group, the Boogaloo Boys. I'm sorry, the Proud Boys. He refused. He won't denounce the Boogaloo Boys either, but it was the Proud Boys that he didn't denounce. Have repeatedly raised fears this year of politically motivated violence. Okay, so can you all read this? Is this font size large enough for you all to read? Let's see here. Up some more. Okay, now part of the issue we're seeing is with people congregating, whether it's for protests or other issues in cities. Is it in cities? It has basically brought together extremist individuals from all sides in close proximity, says Seth Jones, the director of the Transnational Threats Project at the center. Quote, we've seen people on all sides armed, and it does raise concerns about escalation of violence in U.S. cities. We've seen people on all sides armed, and it does raise concerns about escalation of violence in U.S. cities. End quote. Now, the report also linked the threat of violence to the country's charged politics, the coronavirus pandemic, and its financial fallout. The report also linked the threat of violence to the country's charged politics, the coronavirus pandemic, and financial fallout. And its financial fallout. It warned that violence could rise after the presidential election because of increasing polarization, growing economic challenges, concerns about racial injustice, and the persistence of coronavirus health risks. Let me repeat this. This report warned that violence could rise after the presidential election because of increasing polarization, growing economic challenges, concerns about racial injustice, and the persistence of coronavirus health risks. It said that if the Democratic presidential candidate Joseph Biden wins the election, white supremacists could mobilize with targets likely to be African Americans, Latinos, Jews, and Muslims. So that means the Second Amendment applies to us also. So that means we have to protect ourselves. That doesn't mean don't vote. That means we have to protect ourselves. I mean, we have to legally protect. A Republican presidential victory could involve violence emanating out of large-scale demonstrations, the report said. There were some encouraging signs. The number of fatalities from domestic terrorism has been relatively low so far this year compared with some periods of U.S. history. 5 fatalities were caused by domestic terrorism in the first 8 months of this year, compared with the past 5 years, in which total fatalities range from 22 people to 66. Okay. The study attributed the lower number of fatalities to effective intervention by the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. Okay, because the FBI has been breaking up some of this and they arrested those 13 dumbasses who were plotting to storm the Michigan State Capitol, kidnap elected officials, including Governor Gretchen Whitmer. They were plotting to put her on trial and possibly execute her. The FBI broke that stuff. It broke that stuff up. So I like that type of work FBI does. You know, seriously. Now, there's some other things I disagree with that the FBI does. That type of stuff like that, going after these far right organizations and these white supremacists. I like that type of work the FBI does. Okay, that's our taxpayer dollars at work. Okay, so you know, I like that. All right, so read the rest of this article. Far right groups are behind most U.S. terrorist attacks, report finds. October 24th, 2020, from New York Times, written by Jenny Cross. You can read the rest of that because this article's like 4 pages. Okay, let's see who we have here. We got Marcel, we got Brian, Tanya, Carl. Who else we have here? Just a few of the people watching our social media platforms. Follow us on and follow us on our YouTube channel, TEP. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, $ TheAHnShow through Cash App, $ TheAHnShow through Chat, and then also through PayPal, paypal.me/TheAHnShow. PayPal.me/TheAHnShow. I saw an article that said Hillary's a member of the Electoral College now. Usually members of the Electoral College are party loyalists. That applies for Democrats and Republicans. So that's not necessarily something unusual. Usually they are party loyalists who are the Democrats have their slate of electors. Republicans have their slate of electors. They're usually party loyalists. I saw that article also. Okay, lastly, let's go to this story here dealing with history. October 15th, 1883, U.S. Supreme Court strikes down the Civil Rights Act of 1875. October 15th, 1883, the U.S. Supreme Court Civil Rights Act of 1885. So as I've said before, times civil didn't start in when that Cleveland Avenue bus, December 1st, till August 28th, 1955 in Money, Mississippi, even though that galvanized the efforts. Okay. Civil rights goes back to 1865 and 1866, right after the Civil War ends. So if we look at this, this is from EJI.org, Equal Justice Initiative, EJI.org. Supreme Court strikes down Civil Rights Act legitimating segregation and violent assaults against African Americans. Now, on yesterday's show, we talked about the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871, which was during Reconstruction. And we talked about in October 1871, October 17th, 1871, President Ulysses S. Grant declares martial law in South Carolina to crack down on the Ku Klux Klan. Okay, this is history. This is during Reconstruction. So in 1875, Congress passed the Civil Rights Act, which forbade racial discrimination in access to public accommodations and facilities. Okay, forbade racial discrimination which forbade racial discrimination in access to public accommodations and facilities. Now, over the ensuing years, a number of African Americans sued businesses that denied them access to segregated facilities. Okay, because we're fighting for our rights all along. We want first class citizenship. We want all of our rights now. Okay, not 100 years from now. We want all of our rights now. So we know it. It didn't. We're making advances during Reconstruction, but we're going to see some of those advances even erode during Reconstruction, but especially afterwards. We're going to see those things being reversed. Okay, so over the ensuing years, a number of African Americans and businesses, a number of African Americans sued businesses that denied them access to segregated facilities. In 1883, the Supreme Court heard 5 of those cases, and on October 15th, 1883, struck down the Civil Rights Act of 1885 in an 8-to-1 known as the Civil Rights Cases. Okay, on October 15th, 1883, struck down the Civil Rights Act of 1875 in an 8-to-1 decision. Now, in the civil rights cases, the court held that the 14th Amendment, which was cited as the constitutional authorization for the Civil Rights Act of 1875 and mandates, quote, equal protection of the laws, end quote, equal protection of the laws, does not apply to private entities, does not apply to private entities. According to the court, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment applied only to actions taken by state governments or laws passed by state governments. All right. According to the court, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment applied only to actions taken by state governments or laws passed by state governments. Writing for the majority, less than 20 years after ratification of the 13th Amendment of 1865, which legally ended chattel slavery, Justice Joseph Bradley of the U.S. Supreme Court questioned the necessity and appropriateness of laws aimed at protecting African Americans from discrimination. Quote, when a man has emerged from slavery and by the aid of beneficent legislation has shaken off the inseparable concomitants of that state, there must be some stage in the progress of his elevation when he takes the rank of a mere citizen and ceases to be the special favorite of the laws. Sounds like benign neglect. And when his rights as a citizen or a man are to be protected in the ordinary modes by which other men's rights are protected, end quote. Now, the Supreme Court's decision in the civil rights cases eliminated the only federal law that prohibited racial discrimination by individuals or private businesses and left African Americans who were victims of private discrimination to seek legal recourse in unsympathetic state courts. And left African Americans who were victims of private discrimination to seek legal recourse in unsympathetic state courts. Racial discrimination in housing, restaurants, hotels, theaters, and employment became increasingly entrenched and persisted for generations. It would take more than 80 years for the federal government to again attempt to outlaw discrimination with the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Okay, so this deals with the Civil Rights Act of 1875 being struck down as unconstitutional October 15th, 1883, U.S. Supreme Court case. Okay, so we take calls in the first hour of the show when we're broadcasting on the radio on 9:10 a.m. the superstation WFDF. We broadcast Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. to 12 midnight, and Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So the calls are routed through the radio station. We actually normally on Sunday nights, I'm in the radio station studio broadcasting, but because of coronavirus, they have us broadcasting from home for safety precautions. And October 12th, we started doing Monday through Friday because a 1 hour slot opened up on the radio station. Michael Bason's show comes on after my show Monday through Friday. So the first hour of the show, you can call in. All right, so check this out in other articles from EJI.org, Equal Justice Initiative, EJI.org. All right, hey, if you want to advertise with the African History Network, email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Our Sunday night show is totally sold out. I do not have any more space, but our daily show, you can advertise with our daily show. Okay, so we create a video commercial for your business, and we upload that to our Facebook fan page, and we also run it when we rebroadcast our shows also. If you have a video commercial, you can send it to me 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Don't send me an infomercial. 30 seconds, 60 seconds, or we can create one for you at no additional charge. And then also we're on 9 different audio podcast platforms. We're on Castbox, Acast, FM Player, TuneIn. We're on iHeartRadio. I just found out a couple of weeks ago we're on iHeartRadio. We're on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio. And your audio commercial will be in the audio podcast as well. So we have people listen to our shows on all different platforms, audio podcast platforms, and listen to them at work, etc. Okay, don't let this show get you in trouble listening at work, especially if you work with Donald Trump supporters. I'm just saying, luckily, because I'm telling you right now, if I had like a regular like 9-to-5 job and I had to like work with Donald Trump supporters, y'all had to raise some bail money for me because I would snap. I wouldn't be able to handle it. I'm telling you right now. All right, thepinkbakery.com, thepinkbakery.com. They are known for their famous No Frowny Brownie. Have you tasted the world famous No Frowny Brownie? If not, what are you waiting for? They are vegan, gluten-free, and free of the big 8 allergens. All right. While eating their No Frowny Brownie, the fabulous Miss Tabitha Brown said they were good, very good. If she said they were very good, then you know that they are. The Pink Bakery is the first Black-owned Big 8 allergen-free baking mix company. The first Black-owned Big 8 allergen-free baking company. Visit their website, thepinkbakery.com, right now to order. Well, when we're done broadcasting, go what website? Thepinkbakery.com to order their No Frowny Brownie mix today. Okay, and then after you make some, let me know how they taste. All right. Now, the Black Mobile 101 Museum is, they are doing virtual tours right now, virtual exhibits and in-person exhibits. Dr. Khalid El Hakim is the operator and curator and founder of the Black History 101 Mobile Museum for 25 years. The Black History 101 Mobile Museum has carried on the rich legacy of the Black museum movement in America by showcasing original artifacts of the Black experience at colleges, universities, K-12 schools, corporations, libraries, conferences, and cultural events, making it the most traversed Black history mobile exhibit in American history. You can register today for a tour or for a group tour. Contact Dr. Khalid El Hakim directly at 313-645-4197, 313-645-4197, or visit the website blackhistorymobilemuseum.com, blackhistorymobilemuseum.com. All right. Let's see who we got Carl. We got John G. Jones, Research Lodge, number 1. Were you Freemason, John? Research Lodge, number 147. Okay. First aid, CPR. You can save a life. African American business owners, post name your business here on the thread of the broadcast also. Okay. Yeah, CPR is very important. So after, vote now. We don't wait till November 3rd. We need to vote early in person. It's too late to mail it. Most states, they're telling you, the state's attorney generals are telling you, not state's attorney general, the secretary of states are telling you it's too late to mail it now. You can take it to the city clerk's office or county clerk's office, however they do it in your area. And you can, most states, they have early voting. You can vote in person. Okay, vote in person. All right, do that. Don't wait till November 3rd. That's the last day to vote. Okay, let's see here. We got through basically everything for the night. That's about it. That's enough radio for the day. Hey, remember that at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. So you control the radius of a man's thoughts. You can control the circumference of his actions, because the mind can't do or teach what it doesn't know. All right. Sharon said, I voted Monday. Yeah, I'm voting tomorrow. I'm not waiting till November 3rd. I'm voting tomorrow. Also, I post lastly, because we got to get the hell out of here. Because I'll just keep talking, because I got like literally like 50 articles right in front of me right now, and probably about 200 to the left of me. But all these people that keep talking this nonsense saying Asians don't vote, that's not true. Go to, I posted an article from NBCnews.com, their Asian American platform, because I read their articles dealing with the Asian American community as well. So I know what the hell I'm talking about. Asians do vote. Now, just because you haven't seen one voting, maybe they haven't seen any black people voting. I don't know. That's like saying Eskimos don't vote. You really? You think Eskimos don't vote? Yes, they do. Just because you don't know any doesn't mean they don't vote. I posted an article on our fan page the other day because I've done a presentation dealing with this and looking at the data showing how it's totally false. I don't know where people got this nonsense from that Asians don't vote. Now, their history is totally different than ours. When we talk about Asian Americans, we're talking about people who come from at least 20 different countries. I mean, they not just China and Japan, but they're coming from Sri Lanka, Thailand, South Korea, Cambodia, Vietnam. They're coming from India, Pakistan, because Indians, people from India and Pakistan are classified as Asian Americans as well, or Asians also. So you're dealing with people coming from at least 20 different countries, speaking different languages, coming from different cultures. They have different histories. So you can't compare them to African Americans who have, even though African Americans are not a monolith, we have a much more homogenous, much more similar background and historical experiences. Okay. Yes, you have African and immigrants of African descent, but the majority of people in this country of African descent are descended from people who have been here for decades, been here for generations. In 1900, the Great Migration starts in 1915, basically. In 1900, 90% of African Americans lived in the South. Why? It wasn't because we loved the heat. It was a legacy of slavery. We have much more similar conditions, much more similar experiences. Okay. So, when you look at our history, and then we're fighting for the voting right, the 15th Amendment that gave African American men the right to vote, not women at that point. Then the fight for the Voting Rights Act of 1965, things like this. You can't compare African Americans to Asian Americans. You're trying to compare us to people coming from at least 20 different nations that speak different languages, have different histories, come from different cultures. And many of them come from countries where they don't have a history of voting because they couldn't vote. A lot of them are coming from dictatorships and totalitarian countries, things like that, where they could not vote. You can't compare that to us. So that's people not understanding history. All right, there was a article I posted. Asian American vote carries. I'm on the Asian American platform right now on NBC News. Okay. So when you go to NBCnews.com, over on the right-hand side, you'll see 3 horizontal lines. Click there. It takes you to the various platforms: NBC Black, NBC Latino, NBC Asian American. This article here from October 23rd, 2020. We posted this on our fan page, the African History Network, a couple of days ago. It got a big response. And I said, whoever's telling you, once again, I told you before, this whole myth that Asians don't vote. And then as Asian Americans have gone from 4% of the U.S. population to 5%, they've gone from 3.5% of the voting electorate to 5% of the voting electorate. And elected officials are even paying more attention to them, but they were paying attention to them in 2018 midterm election, but they're paying even more attention to them now. Let's see. Let's bring this. This is going to be the last thing. See. But see, we're operating based upon a lot of this BS that's floating around. I don't know where the hell people getting this stuff from. It was just thing when people come to me with a lot of this nonsense, I ask them, how'd you go research that and verify it? Because a lot of times they just repeating stuff they heard somebody else say. All right, can we bring this up? This is coming up. All right, hold on. We got the article up. Screen share should come on. This is running slowly. Because I have Firefox and Google Chrome up. Hold on. But anyway, the name of this article here from NBCnews.com. It carries newfound weight in swing state North Carolina. Asian American vote carries newfound weight in swing state North Carolina. Trump in a dead heat, where the number of LAPI voters could be even higher than statistics show. So why the hell are they worried about American Pacific Islander voters? I thought. So once again, this is a more simple Simon ass nonsense. Okay. Oh, you know what? I think I was trying to I have to show it in. We'll post a link here to this article from NBCnews.com. I think I was supposed to. Okay, here it is. It's coming up. Just a second. I want to show you this article. All right. Okay, Asian American vote carries newfound weight in swing state North Carolina. They have a lot of articles here dealing with Asian Americans and the vote. So, once again, I mean, this stuff is easily verifiable. I once again ask people, where y'all getting this from? This is from October 23rd, 2020. For decades, Asian American voters, let's blow this up here. For decades, Asian American voters haven't been courted as heartily by presidential campaigns as other groups, but the political world has started to play catch up. And in battleground states like North Carolina, which President Donald Trump carried by less than 4 percentage points in 2016, the candidates this year really do have to fight for every vote. As of this week, Real Clear Politics polling averages showed Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden in a dead heat in North Carolina, with Biden up by less than 2 percentage points. According to numbers compiled by APIA Vote and AAPI data, there are nearly 172,000 eligible Asian American voters in North Carolina, representing about 3.5% of the electorate. The state's total AAPI population came in at just over 363,000, exploding by 154% since 2000. Indian Americans accounted for well over half of the AAPIs in North Carolina, followed by people of Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, and Japanese descent. In an era and landscape of close call races, the state's 2016 governor's race was decided by about 10,000 votes. Quote, we're really focused on the fact that AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander votes in North Carolina, can be the determining factor in this election of a lifetime, end quote, said Koneru, Koneru, who previously worked on AAPI language access issues for the voting section of the Department of Justice and is also lead of NCAAT's politically engaged affiliate, NCAT in Action. Read this article. Once again, this stuff is easily verifiable. Okay, Asians do vote. Now, some of them may come from countries that don't have a history of voting. They don't vote at the rates we do. Our history is entirely different. All right. So once again, another myth dispelled. Okay. Can we stop with this nonsense? All right. So check out that article. Okay, so we'll post this link here. So a lot of these myths, we just need to stop. Just like, and also Willie Lynch never historically existed either, just so people understand. You know, I've done lectures on that. I've interviewed Professor Manu Ampim. Go to manuampim.com, MANUAMPIM, manuampim.com. Read his essays. He's a history professor at Contra Costa College, California. He's done extensive research on the fake Willie Lynch letter 1712. Dr. Kwabena Ashanti came out and admitted that he wrote the Willie Lynch letter in 1970. There are words in the Willie Lynch letter that didn't even exist in the early 18th century. The sentence structure, the syntax of Old English, or what would be Middle English at that time, probably Middle English at that time. That sentence structure of the 20th century didn't even exist then. This is before the American Revolutionary War was fought. There are words in the Willie Lynch letter like self-refueling that are 20th century words, come from the transportation industry, things like this. It's just more nonsense. Willie Lynch never historically existed. Okay. He admitted it. 1, 2, when you go study history, you don't find Willie Lynch anywhere. Now, there was a Captain Willie Lynch from the 19th century, like around the 1850s. That's somebody entirely different. It's just more nonsense. Okay. So, and then we just operate within a circumference of awareness largely filled with nonsense. Okay, so your thoughts create feelings, your feelings create actions and behaviors, your actions and behaviors create results. When you have bad information, you make stupid ass decisions. All right, we got to get out of here. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you tomorrow night. Peace. Thanks for tuning in.